Hello and welcome to fourth lecture in sixth chapter of our comprehensive course on AI, ML and data science. Initially, for many chapters, we are going an in-depth study of Python programming language. And the speciality of this study is that Python is a general purpose language. So if you are teaching someone who wants to be a web developer, then the approach is totally different. If you are teaching it to someone who becomes a cyber security expert, then the approach would be different. But if you are teaching Python to someone who is aiming to become data analyst, data scientist, machine learning expert, then in that case, the approach is what we are following at present. So we do detailed study of libraries which are useful for data science. In earlier chapters, we did very detailed study of NumPy library. Now in this chapter, we in previous chapter we did some basic study of pandas. In this chapter, we are doing slightly more advanced study of pandas. In this chapter, the previous lecture was about how pandas is super powerful and to load the data. We saw that it can read CSV file, TSV file, it can read Excel spreadsheet, it can read even data from the internet directly, it can read HDFS file, it can read Parquet file for big data. So pandas is super powerful for loading data that we know. So obviously the question arises, now my data is loaded in my IDE, Jupyter Notebook or Jupyter Lab, and or VS Code or PyCharm, and now I want to analyze the data. So how the process should start? So this chapter begins with that basic data exploration using Panda. And data exploration is a very critical step. Actually, those who are newbies to the data science, they immediately, as soon as they get the data, they immediately start building the machine learning models. That is dividing the data into train and test, and how to do it, don't worry about that. Train, test, split, and then use models like regression and classification and logistic regression and decision tree and random forest and XGBoost and fine. But the question is, first, do you know your data properly? So for that, you have to do data exploration. That is also often called EDA, exploratory data analysis. So the more the time you spend with your data, that is always beneficial in all stages of machine learning lifecycle. So exploration is important. And what is the meaning of exploration? Exploration means how many types of columns are there in my data frame. For example, here this is one data frame, and it is shown that it has 5 columns: age, income, years employed, department, and location. And here clearly it is given that these columns are random integers. Okay, so while this column appears to be one of having values from this, so they are string variables or categorical variable names of the department, and similarly these are names of the location. So these are called categorical, but these are called numerical. Then you can also see the range, that this numerical has values between 20 and 70. This has income is between 3,000 and 10,000. Years employed is between 1 and 30. Departments are only one out of these 4. No, some strange department like maybe tech support exists in this form. Okay. So similarly, cities are also only these 3. So that means this firm has its branches only in these 3 cities. It does not have its branches in, say, Los Angeles. So it is clear just by looking at the data that many different things about the data are clear. So knowing this thing, that is called exploratory data analysis. And even for that purpose, just like for loading data, Panda is very powerful. Similarly, for doing exploratory data analysis also, Panda is powerful. And in exploratory data analysis, what do we do? If you read this, then you will realize that we make the font also a bit bigger. So in that case, pandas offer rich set of functions for inspecting. Inspecting means what I just now told, that integers, what are categorical, what is the minimum and maximum value, and all those things. Summarizing. Summarizing means what? For example, these 3 are integer columns in my data. So in that case, what is the minimum value, what is the maximum value, what is the mean, median, mode, what is 25 percentile, 58 percentile, 75 percentile, are there any missing value in the column, etc., etc. Okay. Then understanding that. Similarly, if it is categorical column, then for each category, how many rows are there? Total my data set has 30 rows. Among that, in HR department, how many employees are working? So say 3 to 4. In marketing department, how many are working? Say 12. In finance department, how many are working? Say 8. And in sales department, how many are working? So the remaining out of 30. So that's how you understand categorical variable. Okay, then that are called finding the frequency of each category. These 4 are called category, and you find how many of the observation fall in this category. That means how many observations in the department column fall in HR category, how many observations fall in marketing category, how many observations fall in finance category, and so on. So we need to do all this exploration. Okay. Now for that, we are creating a data set. Now, whenever I say creating a data set, now actually as a data scientist, you don't need to create the data because data will be given by the client, or at least client will tell you the source on the internet or somewhere, database from where you can get the data. At the most, you will need to convert from Excel to CSV or maybe SQL database to CSV and all that. But data source is known. You don't have to create your own data. Then why here? Because sometimes when data is not available easily and your purpose is just to do research. For example, you have become advanced AI researcher and you have designed a completely new algorithm, but you don't have sufficient data on which you want to test that algorithm. This actually happened. For example, in computer vision, many neural networks, the word everybody has heard, they were invented much earlier, but for several years, neural networks, their true power could not be realized in computer vision area because there was no sufficiently large database of images. Then one professor from a university in maybe I think Toronto or maybe somewhere developed the database of millions and millions of images with the help of her fellow students, etc. And at the same time, one another professor developed a powerful neural network and technique called backpropagation in the neural network, which made neural network really capable of solving a very complex problem. And at the same time, third thing converged, that very powerful hardware and graphical processing units and chips started developing. So when these three factors converged, that was the birth of modern computer vision and even modern AI in some sense. Okay. So what I'm saying is that for researchers, it is important that they should know how to create the data. So otherwise, this thing is not required for a data scientist. Okay. So here I'm creating the data, importing pandas and numpy library, setting a seed so that every time same values will be created. Otherwise, this random int sometimes may create values which are different during each iteration. And 5 columns will be there because this is a dictionary. Now we know that data frame of pandas can be created from a dictionary where the key values that become the column header. So these 5 red colored, they are the column headers, and the value column that will become the rows. And size is here, the number of rows size is same in all. So that means there will be 30 rows. Okay. And here it is given that integer np.random.randint. So what does this whole line means? That age populate my age column by choosing integers between 20 and 70, and the integer should be randomly selected. Okay. Then populate my income column, 30 rows of my income column by choosing integer between 3000 and 10,000 randomly selected. Populate my years employed column by choosing integers. Years employed means for how long that employee has been associated with your firm. So by choosing integers randomly between 1 to 30 and populate the 30 rows. Again, these are also integers. So here in these 3 rows, I am choosing np.random.randint. So it is clear that these are numeric data type. Okay. But if I just put one comment line and then the other two, these are categorical data type. Here I am not using np.random.randint, but rather I am using np.random.choice. Now this is a special function. What does this function do is it takes one of these 4 choices, HR or marketing or finance or sales, which you specify in the list, and fills the 30 rows. So obviously same value will be used several times. So then the next question arises that how many times HR will be used, how many times marketing will be used, how many times finance, and how many rows will have sales in the department column. That is decided by probability. That is here this P variable. Now here P is not specified at all. So then in that case, P would be equal for all. That means P equals 0.25, 25% for this, 25% probability for this, 25% for this, and 25% for this. So in case these rows would have been 40, so then there would be 10 rows with HR, 10 with marketing, 10 with finance, and 10 with sales. So that is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, or 0.25 probability. Similarly, here there are 3 locations, but this time I don't want them to be my location column to be populated with equal probability. Suppose I know that my company has maximum branches in New York, followed by second number is maximum branches in San Francisco, and then it has branches in Chicago. So then I will provide this kind of probability that 50% of my rows will have location equals New York, 30% of my rows will have location equals San Francisco, and 20% of my rows will have location equals Chicago. Okay, and the sum of all these probabilities should always be 1 because total it should be 100%. So you can check it and it is 1. Now you can create the data frame and you can even view it. If I just keep this much, then I will not be able to view it. But suppose print df, I write it that way. There are only 30 rows, so complete df I can afford to print. Otherwise, I will write df dot head. Okay, so then you can see this is my data frame which is created, and there are no null values, nothing, no empty cells. And the department column and the location column, they are randomly populated. Age, income, and years, they are also randomly populated. But still, all these numbers will satisfy this conditions which you laid down, that range should be this only. Okay, and similarly all these categorical department and location, they will also satisfy these probabilities. Now the question is, suppose someone is complete novice and he wants to become a data scientist. Does he need to write this code for generating synthetic data on his own? Well, if you write, it's a good practice, and initial chapters I will say that you should write. When the time will come, I will say that now forget about writing code, just go on using AI tools. But here, initially you type it when you do practice, and you will see that you make several mistakes. Now there are a few drawbacks of actually typing the code. It forces you to pay attention on two things simultaneously: programming and the business problem, or the data aspect of the problem. As a data scientist, you are more interested in knowing your data. So if you don't have to program, then you can easily know all this description which I have described in previous 15-16 minutes. So instead of typing my code, I actually made you aware of the data and its nature in much detail. But if you type it, then your focus is on programming, not to make syntactic error. For example, here in Panda, if you just write small d by mistake, you will see that it throws error. Or suppose here you write capital D, but here in the frame you write small d, then you will see that again it throws error. Now every library has its quirks, and every programming language has its some typical syntax, and a data scientist has to deal with SQL, and he has to deal with Python, and he has to deal with so many tools, and each has its own quirks. So sometimes there is a chance that he will make mistake. So AI tools are very handy in those kind of situations. How? So let me show you. Here, this Jupyter AI chat, I had already earlier also shown it, and in the settings I will select which model I want to choose. So I am choosing the GPT. Let me choose the latest only, GPT-4 Turbo. Actually, thereafter also there are some model 4.0 and that. Okay, let me choose the latest only. Its API key I have put here because I have purchased the paid plan. If you do not have paid plan, I will show you some other methods also which do not require money. Okay, fine. And then you can ask Jupyter. Okay, I think I did not save. It is still GPT Turbo only, but I want to choose the latest model, and then I have to save my changes. So I have saved my changes. I'm going back to this, and here I will ask my this is just like you open the chat GPT and ask it something. Now what will I ask to do? I will ask it to do this. Just a minute, I am bringing it. Okay, I'm asking it to do this, create this code. Okay, but I will not write the code, I will make it write the code. So I'm writing that give me Python code for creating a data frame which has these columns: age. Let me keep it this way so that you can see that I am writing my characteristic from these only: age, years employed, department, location, etc. And first three columns are integer. The ranges are 2070, 3000, 10,000, etc., etc., and 130. Then next two columns are department and marketing. They are HR, marketing, department, and location. The HR, marketing, finance, sales, and location should be New York, San Francisco, Chicago. And here I have not specified the probability. So yeah, I think I have selected, must be randomly selected. So if you don't specify the probability, then it will assign equal probability to all. So that is fine. But here I have to specify my probability with probability (0.5, 0.3, 0.2). Okay, so New York has 0.5, this has, and keep 30 rows. Now I just take this whole thing. So that means I decide which kind of data frame I want, and I ask my ChatGPT 4 model. Of course, internet must be on. So let me switch on because I prefer to keep it as what I have written over here. But it will work in same manner. So let me put one extra cell here. This is, say I write ChatGPT code and paste it. Okay. Sometimes a little bit mistake occur, that maybe a comma or something. Here even that did not occur, and you can see it is also a data frame as per my requirement. Randomly selected, so obviously the values will not match. 58 is the first row, here 64 is the first row, age. Similarly, income also is different, but that is because they are random. But they satisfy this condition that age must be between these and income must be between these and all that. So this is pretty quick. Now there is only one issue. Some people may say that I want because this requires to install Jupyter AI in your Jupyter environment, and that takes some efforts initially, not very difficult. But I have not yet taught to you deliberately, so I will teach, and I will advise that initially you don't use the AI tools. Okay. Now I will give you green signal at one stage, and that stage is coming very early. That now blindly use AI tools, because by that time you will be able to debug the answer which is given by AI tool. If some error occurs, then what happens is that this code is given by ChatGPT, but sometimes some error occurs. Then you should be able to debug at least that this is the error, and maybe I have forgot. I mean, ChatGPT forgot something, or maybe some comma was misplaced or something. So you have to learn to debug that error has occurred, and you have to copy error and again ask ChatGPT only that this error has occurred. Now what should I do? So it is an iterative process. So in 2-3 attempts, sometimes your code is generated. This was a very simple code, so it is generated very quickly. Now there is another tool. If you have not installed Jupyter, and if you have not paid for that version, okay, that is OpenAI API key, then in that case you can use one another tool which is called Cursor AI. So in next lecture, I will show you how to use Cursor AI. But remember, Cursor AI also uses some free large language model only. Okay, and that means your internet must be on. And if you are having some sensitive data which is not, I mean, which is not appropriate to send on internet, say medical history data or confidential financial data of a large bank. So at that time, you can use you can neither use this OpenAI API key, though OpenAI says that they take complete care of your privacy and everything, and you have to trust them because they are big and reliable organization. But if your client is very paranoid about sending the data or even basic information about data, you can see that you are as such not sending the data. You are just sending what kind of data it is. That these many columns are there, these many rows are there, and so on. But even this much, some clients may tell you that I don't want to send even this much information about how much salary do I pay to my employee, etc., or what is the age group of employees in my organization, where my branches are located. So at that time, you can use local models. Now, how to use local models? So here, first of all, I will disconnect my internet. So I have disconnected my internet. So that means it is clear that I'm using local model. You can try also. I'm opening some website, say Facebook, and it says that check your network connection and everything. So I have disconnected. Now I should go back to settings. And here, instead of OpenAI, now I will use this Llama model. Now where is that? Yeah, Olama. Okay. So Olama, and among them, which model should I use? Then suppose this is the command prompt, and I have written Olama list. So all these models I have installed on my PC, and there is no need of internet for using them. This is for exclusively SQL. This is for this is general coder. This is also Llama is general purpose, not only for coding but everything. This is code Llama for coding only, and there is one Python. This. Now here I'm dealing with Python, so I may like to use this model. Okay, so let me test that model, Wizard Coder. Okay, there is no need of API or anything because the model is installed on my PC only. Of course, the model must be running. Now I save the changes. So now I'm using Olama and Wizard Coder, which are there on my PC only. Okay, and I come back to that same point where I want to ask a question. Now, what is the meaning that the model must be running? So you have to use one such solution which is called Open Web UI, and the safest way to use that solution is in a Docker container. Okay, and I will teach everything that how to do all this and all that, but not at present. And then once you do that, the Docker container provides a user interface, a link like this, and as I click it, I can see that it is exactly same user interface as the ChatGPT, similar to that. Okay, and the only thing is, if I read the address here, URL, then it is localhost port 3000. So this is not at all going. Nothing is going to the internet. Nothing is coming to from the internet. Here I am choosing my model, so I will choose this model. So that is the Python. Where was that? Python. Yeah, Wizard Coder Python. And this is my prompt of about the data which I want to. Which kind of pandas data frame I want. Okay, so let me copy this prompt, and just like I sent the prompt to ChatGPT, I am sending the same prompt to the Wizard Coder, which is on my PC. Okay, I could have sent it in my Jupyter notebook also, like here. There is no need to, but you can see that since my hardware is pretty powerful, within very short time I am getting a very nice answer. Okay, You can see here only maybe one no, it has produced all. It has just not produced a line for the printout, which is okay. So I just copy this and come back to my Jupyter node. This was the ChatGPT code. I again add one more, and here I write wizard coder code. Okay, so then this is my code, and of course I have to add one sentence for printing the data frame. So print df and control enter. A little bit error has occurred. Low is greater than high. Yes, because my range of salary was between 3,000 to 10,000. Wizard coder made a little bit of small mistake. It took 1,000. So, and you get the this is wizard coder code, and this is the data frame which it has generated. This is ChatGPT code, and this is the data frame which it has generated. And this is the code which was already printed, typed earlier by me in my Jupyter lab manually, and this is the data frame which it has produced. Let me show you that even this open web UI and opening this local host and all that is also not necessary. If you have installed this, that is Jupyter AI chat, then the same prompt which I asked to my wizard coder on in that web browser on the local host, same prompt I can ask here. Okay, and it will give the answer. Again, it is giving the answer, same answer inside my Jupyter. So Jupyter AI saves you of that trouble. Olama model you have to install, but Olama web UI and the Docker part is eliminated. Okay, and you will see. Let us use this code. Okay, so I will call that code as this is ChatGPT code. This is wizard coder code using open web UI. Okay, and this is again wizard coder code, but using Jupyter AI. So let me paste. I am keeping this because when I share this Jupyter notebook with you, everything should remain with you. That's why. Okay. Now here this time same wizard coder did not make any mistake. Okay, and if you remember here it had put 1,000, but here it did not make any mistake. Further, it I think did not. This sentence earlier was not printed. I had to add print df manually. This time it printed. So large language model and no mistake this time. Same model, but in the Jupyter AI, it is producing better result. There is just a chance. Okay, in a web browser also it can produce accurate result. There is nothing like that. Now there is still one more tool that is called cursor. So